Dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. So much to get to this evening, but before we began programming, this broke, and I want to read to you directly this from the Epic Times. If I can find it, just a second here. This broke. So basically, the Supreme Court has vacated the court order blocking deportations under Trump's Alien Enemies Act. So I'm reading this directly from the Epic Times as it is just recently broke. An appeals court had rejected Trump's request to stay Judge James Boasberg's orders, this blocking deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. And as of now, that has been reversed. So the Supreme Court had tipped Epic Times, granted President Trump's request to halt a federal judge's orders preventing his administration from using the Alien Enemies Act to deport suspected members of a Venezuelan gang. Now, guys, obviously, this is big news. This is huge news, not just for the Trump administration, but frankly, for all Americans that believe in sovereignty, that believe in borders, language, culture, as Michael Savage would say. This is so crucial. This is so important. You have these federal judges that I think were usurping the president's executive power, and ostensibly they were the ones that were setting foreign policy. It was absolutely insane how a federal district judge thinks that they have the right to set up a nationwide injunction. Never made any sense to me. It appears as though the Supreme Court has sided with the Trump administration. This is very welcome news, especially given the fact that many of the people that the Trump administration were deporting out of this country and have been deporting out of this country are violent criminals that can't wait to do harm to one of your family members. Absolutely insane. The column goes on. We grant the application and vacate the temporary restraining orders, the court said in a brief or unsigned opinion, a per curiam or an unsigned opinion. Justice Sonia Sotomayor penned a dissent, of course she would, that was joined by Justices Elena Kagan and Ketanji Brown Jackson. Justice Amy Coney Barrett partially joined Sotomayor's dissent. Honestly, I don't know what's up with Amy Coney Barrett. All I could do is speculate, like the rest of you guys. But it seems to me this is a pretty cut and dry issue. But nonetheless, you have the listen. Elena Kagan, at least, is a very smart woman. I give her that, but she's on the left. You have Ketanji Brown Jackson that has no business being on the Supreme Court, in my opinion. And then you have Justice Sonia Sotomayor, that has even less of a reason to be on the Supreme Court of the United States. These are not brilliant people when it comes to the to people sitting on the Supreme Court. I can't argue that against Kagan. I think she's a well reasoned liberal. All right, I will give her that. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, to me, sometimes I get the sense, and this is just my opinion, that she's scared, that she can't make a decision. I can't even speculate. I won't speculate. But anyway, she sides with them partially. What that means exactly, I'm not sure. So we'll find out more as time goes on. The decision came after the administration and the plaintiffs in the initial case filed dueling briefs to the justices. Acting U.S. Solicitor General Sarah Harris, the Epic Time reads, told the Supreme Court that quote, the case presents fundamental questions about who decides how to conduct sensitive national security related operations in this country. The president through Article 2 or the judiciary through temporary restraining orders. And that's very smart. That's a very smart order. Now, why do I say that? Or at least, I'm sorry, that's a very smart argument by Solicitor General Sarah Harris in what she told the Supreme Court. Because obviously anyone that's read the Constitution will get it. These federal district judges do not have the authority. These are the lower level courts, right? They don't have the authority, the Supreme under Article 3 to do what they're doing. So she says through Article 2 or the judiciary through temporary restraining order. So, I mean, that's just, to me, there's just a very smart argument on her part. How do these activists have the ability to be able to do it? Thank God the justices have sided on America's side and said they cannot. Trump appealed Boasberg's order to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, which declined this past week to grant that relief. The plaintiffs, which included a group of Venezuelan nationals, told the court on April 1 that the district court's block, quote, ensures that based on an unprecedented peacetime invocation of the AEA, I'm not even sure what that is, of the AEA, additional individuals are not hurried off to a brutal foreign prison, potentially for the rest of their lives, without judicial process. All right, so now this is a developing story, but this is huge news. This is great news, quite frankly, for the Trump administration and for the country. I believe that this is a win that needed to be had. This is a win that the Trump administration needed, frankly, that we all needed, and we need to be able to protect American citizens within the United States of America. And that's exactly what the Trump administration has set out to do. That's what they promised to do. That's what President Trump campaigned on. Tom Homan was out there talking about the same stuff. And now, again, I can't stress. Can't stress how big this news is, and how happy I am to hear it. So again, this just breaking that the Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to deport Venezuelan immigrants under wartime law, and I think this is going to reverberate. I mean, when it comes to the issue of deporting illegals, sending them off on these planes, this is going to be huge, and I think this is going to send more people are going to end up self-deporting. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that is a very, very, very big deal. All right, there's so much to get to. It's absolutely insane. I do want to talk about the hands-off protests. And guys, I got to be honest with you. I heard somebody else say it on radio today, and so did I. I totally forgot about the hands-off rallies. I didn't even pay attention. I was doing some work throughout the weekend and didn't even pay attention to these rallies, but I knew they were staged. But I do want to make mention of this because I'm going to clown them shortly. We will talk about the 5 stages of grief, but I do want to say this: even though we know that these rallies, these so-called hands-off rallies, and again, we'll get to those shortly. We'll also get to the tariffs. Obviously, the markets are going up and down. I don't even know where the Dow, S&P 500, or the NASDAQ sit right now, but I know they're going up and down because of the volatility. But I don't want to say I'm not stressing about that. I just think in the long term, this is going to be best for America. There are going to be some growing pains. I do agree there needs to be some better communication from the Trump campaign, and there needs to be empathy when it comes to elderly people who are obviously waiting to retire, and they want to make sure that their portfolio looks good as they prepare for retirement. I've heard some people call into other radio shows and talk about, listen, I'm willing to hurt a little bit for a couple years if it means that we're going to bring some manufacturing back to the United States, so on, etc. All right, but let me just circle back real quickly to these rallies, and I'll have more to say after the break and plenty to say when it comes to tariffs. And we know what happened with that Signal chat now, so I'll give you that news as well. Anyway, we'll give you that news as well. But you're dealing with a lot of people that, in my opinion, listen, I know it's hard to take these people seriously, and I don't when it comes to if I'm having a one-on-one conversation with one of these people that attends one of these hands-off rallies, I'm not really taking them seriously. But whether they're organized or not, and they are, there's no doubt about it. And it was a dud. Apparently, it was a flop, with the exception of some places where these things occurred. The base of the Democrat Party, the radical left, they will mobilize. Now, they're not mobilizing as much as Democrats will like right now. Frankly, I just think it's too soon. I think it's dumb. And I do believe that the tariffs and the economy will nullify all of this nonsense. Right now, the lefties are sitting out there, hey, watch me, watch me, watch me, see me, orange man bad, orange man Nazi. That isn't working for them whatsoever. There's a new story out, or a new headline out, that President Trump's approval ratings continue to rise to the chagrin of the left. This, according to the Daily Mail. Trump is more popular now than before he sent the global markets into a frenzy. Again, this is from the Daily Mail, by enacting sweeping new tariffs. An exclusive dailymail.com JL partner survey of over 1,000 registered voters conducted from March 31 to April 3rd found that Republicans remains largely popular in the U.S. The poll found that Trump's approval rating rose to 53%. That is a 4% increase over last week when it was 49%. So the left and the media continues to try to whip the the electorate into a frenzy. So far, that has not been working. But I got to be honest with you guys. At some point, if we don't get this economy turned around, if Republicans don't get off their butts and make sure that we get some permanent tax cuts, and they don't make sure that we get deregulation, everything that Trump is doing, everything that Doge is doing will be all for naught. So I encourage you, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and blow smoke up your butt like a lot of conservatives would like to do. Quite frankly, I want you to win. I want America to win. I want to win. And that means, yes, in some cases, there's going to need to be tariffs, but those tariffs need to be coupled with deregulation, and they need to be coupled with tax cuts. All right, and we do want fair trade all across the board, and that includes America trading with other couples. I got more on the other side. You guys stay tuned. You're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. All right. So, guys, if you would please subscribe to my podcast wherever you go to get your podcast: Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Subscribe to my podcast, The Carl Jackson Show. Again, YouTube, Rumble, Salem Podcast Network, wherever you go. I would certainly appreciate that. I think I just said that 2 times. I apologize, guys. Also, X Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show, at The Carl Jackson Show. Is where you can go to find me. Man, I'm so relieved about this news about the Alien Enemies Act. That is such a big deal. Such a big deal. All right. So X, Instagram, and Facebook, wherever you go to find me, at Carl Jackson Show, at The Carl Jackson Show. If you guys will follow me on social media, kind of repost some of the things that I'm reposting, or just stop in to say, hey, I try to respond to as many of you as possible. Certainly appreciate that. All right, Gabe, is we ready? Okay, glorious. Hey, greetings. Hey, Wild Wilson. Greetings to you, man. Good to see you. Appreciate you being out there today. All right, so man, I was almost getting ready to give Dennis Prager's call number. All right. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. All right, guys. I am ready to go. All right. Okay. So Gabe says, Carl, go ahead. All right. I'm getting used to this, guys. So please forgive me for this. But anyway, before we went to break or the brief pause, again, it was sitting here talking about the Alien Enemies Act. And the Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to deport Venezuelan immigrants under the wartime law. And I just think this is such huge news. This is a blessing. This is going to be devastating, in my opinion, to the Democrat Party and to their lawfare campaign. We saw their lawfare campaign before Trump got into office. They tried to kill the man. Beyond that, but the lawfare was absolutely insane. And Democrats cannot win on merit, right? They cannot win with their own policies. So what do? They just try to throw up roadblocks, and they suspect that we won't fight back. Unfortunately, not or fortunate for us, fortunate for America, they ran into an administration that is fighting back. Now, the Democrat Party. I want to talk about these hands off rallies. I don't know if we have any video on those, and then I want to get to the tariffs because I think the tariffs are important. But again, I'm a free market trader. I do believe that if you're going to use tariffs, you should use them as leverage only. I do believe that they should be coupled or joined with tax cuts and deregulation. Otherwise, they can be dangerous. But also, I'm going to make a case for Trump doing what he's doing now. In all instances, I would encourage you guys not to look at the chart. I found out the way that chart, it wasn't, I don't think they were trying to be misleading, but the way that the chart that Lutnick strode out, I think that was in the Rose Garden. I'm not exactly sure. With Trump last week, some of those numbers could be a little confusing and or misleading, and some of the tariffs from some nations, including friendly nations, don't kick in unless a certain amount of exports enter their country from the United States of America. But Trump wants a clean slate with everyone. There's news that Scott Bessent is out there working with 70 nations, and we've got video for you when it comes to that. So we'll share that momentarily. But let me just get to this real quick. So a lot of people mentioned this over the weekend. What the left is dealing with are the 5 stages of grief, excuse me. And that includes denial, that includes anger, that includes bargaining, that includes depression, and that includes acceptance. Now, I don't believe that the left, the radical left, that is, the people that you see out there with the blue hair and the pink hair, or some of the guys that you see out there that are, I don't know, not acting like real men out there protesting for George Soros and protesting for the radical left. Listen, I do believe there's a legitimate denial. Now, the left always came at us. I said, "Oh, we're the election deniers." Never mind the fact that the left have been denying elections for decades. Well, I mean, we can go back to, frankly, Trump's first election in 2016. We can go back to George W. Bush, where they called him an illegitimate president as well. This is what the left constantly does. But it seems to me that it's the left that is in constant denial. And what these mobs, what these rallies are meant to do is just stoke up a narrative, right? That there's a huge amount of people, there's a huge swath of people across the United States of America that are already fed up with Donald Trump, despite the fact that the man hasn't even been in office for 90 days. I mean, there's been some video out there of some conservatives questioning some of these people in Washington, D.C., and they're absolutely clueless, but they have a community. They want to be a part of something just like we want to be a part of something. And frankly, I think these people are going to be around, and they're going to stick around because they have nothing else to do. Their lives are dependent upon their community. Their community is the radical left. And you got to remember that. That's their government is their god. They're out there calling Elon Musk a thief and all this kind of stuff for Doge and everything that he's implementing with Doge, because they really believe, I don't know how, except they've been brainwashed. The left has done an absolute amazing job with these people, but they think he's a thief when he's the one that is bringing attention to the thieves in Washington, D.C., and wants to help them, but they don't get it. They are in denial because they've been told all along that Trump is a Nazi, that Republicans are radicals, that Republicans are crazy, that Republicans are evil, that Republicans want you to, I don't know, want bad air and bad water and all this kind of nonsense. And Republicans are racist and Republicans are xenophobes. This is what these people grew up hearing. And now they can't help but to wonder, how is it that these people have gotten into power? And these are a bunch of spoiled brats. This is the generations, if you will, of people that receive participation trophies, pat on the backs for doing absolutely nothing, and now they're wondering why they aren't getting their way, and they think that's American. But all they can do is protest, but they have nothing to say. So they are in a state of denial. It's obvious that they're also suffering from anger, which is another one of the stages, 5 stages of grief. And we can see that with the Tesla terrorism, with so many of these people out there just doing cuckoo for Cocoa Puff stuff out there stabbing Tesla tires, writing Nazi swastikas on Teslas. You guys saw the video that I showed you last week when one of the guys that was sitting there trying to write a swastika on one of the Elon Musk trucks, or one of the Tesla trucks. Forgive me, I forget what they're called. And then the guy catches them, and he's like the nicest, sweetest liberal. Oh, I didn't mean it. I mean, it could come right off, and all this kind of stuff, not realizing he wasn't ready for the thug life. But that's exactly where we are. It's absolutely insane. And so these people are angry. And I've said this time and time again. This is what the left does. They try to make people angry so that they don't think. And this is one of the reasons why I think Trump has to get, and the Republicans have to get these tax cuts done. Because right now we're looking at these hands off rallies. We're looking at all these participation trophy people out there, and we're laughing at them. But you don't want the narrative to shift against Trump. And what they're playing, make no mistake about it, what the left is playing is a narrative game, a narrative game. If they keep showing this stuff on media all the time and bombarding us with that, guys, those of us that are very conservative, those of us that want Trump's agenda to be fulfilled, we're going to stick with the man. But what about the people that are like, oh man, I voted for this guy because I really thought the economy would turn around. I really thought he was a decent guy. And they'll start looking at these protests and don't listen. Right now, they're not paying as much attention. But eventually, if these things continue, and they will get worse. So, Carl, how can you say that? Because the left has nothing else. They have absolutely nothing else. So they're going to get worse. All they know is violence. Do you guys remember the video that I showed you? I don't know if I showed you that video, or maybe I just posted it online over the weekend. X, Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show, at the Carl Jackson Show. That's where you can go to find me. But there was a pro-life activist. I don't know where she was, but she was debating it. I believe it was New York, but I can't say for certain. But I posted it on, I believe, on my X account, maybe Facebook, Instagram, at Carl Jackson Show, at the Carl Jackson Show. And apparently she was having two black chicks. And the pro-life activist was just a sweet lady. Obviously, she won the debate, and she said something to the effect of, "Hey, well, listen, I'm not the one that's sitting here, supporting babies being killed or something to that effect." And the lady just punches her in the face, slaps her. I mean, not slaps her, punches her literally a couple times in the face, knocks off her glasses. The other lady goes down. She wasn't expecting that at all. She comes back up bloody. This is what we're going to see more of. And I got to brace you for that. I just got to be, I got to be real with you, because sometimes I feel like conservatives, and I may do this sometimes. You want to give people, you want people to keep fighting. You want to give people the good news, but guys, I'm telling you, um, nothing, nothing worth having is going to come to you without pain. It's just, and I wish it didn't work that way sometimes. Frankly, we can talk about my radio career. All right, it's been a long journey, and I'm not there yet. But I'm gonna keep fighting for it. But nothing worth fighting for comes without pain. I mean, it's as simple as that. And I think this country is worth fighting for. And I give kudos to any of these people that'll go out there. And I'm not one of these people that like to get out in the street and take all these. That's just not me. But I respect the people that do it. And frankly, part of the reason why I simply don't think I can handle it. I don't think I have the tolerance for it, frankly. But so it's just not me. But things are going to get worse, and we're going to see it with a lot of these people. Bargaining is the next step. But here's the problem: there is no bargaining. There is no bargaining because these people lost, and they don't get it. They lost. See, and they're not, the left isn't used to losing, because typically, even when they lose, they win. This is something that I've said for over a decade now. Even when the left loses, they win. We always wondered, how is it that these people continue to retain, or not just retain, but expand their ground, expand territory. It's because they've accomplished to take over every institution imaginable, whether it's entertainment, whether it's academia, quite frankly, even churches, sadly, and religion. The Catholic Church got some bad news today. I forgot about that. I got to go back and find that story. But the Catholic news got some bad Catholic vote, I believe it's called, got some bad news today, and I'll have to go back and double check that. But they're not getting any more money from the federal government. Some of these NGOs, so a lot of them are disbanding. So that's more good news for us. I'll have more on that probably tomorrow, because I completely forgot about that. And I forgot to write it down, so I didn't research it. So I want to make sure that I come out and that I'm as accurate as possible with those of you that are in the with those of you that are in the listening audience. All right, so let me just say this real quick. Okay, so when we get back, here's what I'll do. Democrats have staged these protests in deep blue cities across the country. I just want to read you some quick synopsises on that. I'll finish ramping up the 5 stages of grief, and then we'll go on to some tariff talk. So you guys stay tuned. All right, guys, just a reminder that you are listening to the Carl Jackson Show. Please follow us, Instagram, and Facebook. Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show. At the Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me, if you don't mind. And then please support the podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. Wherever you go to get your podcast, the Carl Jackson Show is where you can go to find me. I'm sitting here scampering. Do I have? I'm looking for something in particular. All right, so I'm sorry, guys. I am scrolling through my phone because I've got to find something here. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, so I do want to remind you guys that My Pillow has a mega sale going on. My Pillow Mega Sale 2.0. So My Pillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, you can save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets, available in any size and any color. Then you have these luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability. They're perfect for a great night's sleep. All right. So if you're looking also for a meaningful gift, you can save 30% on the brand new Mike crosses that are inspired by the one that Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs. They're proudly made in the USA, so you can get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so don't wait. And don't forget, the best-selling standard My Pillow is now just $17.98. Again, the standard My Pillow is now just $17.98. Plus orders over $75 ship absolutely free. Go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl, CARL. I don't spell it like the communists, or call 800-858-0263. 800-858-0263. All right, guys. Okay, so let me get back to let me just wrap up these stages of grief, and then I want to move on to the tariffs, or move on to some bigger and better things, and then we'll see if there's any breaking news for you as well. As I scroll through my phone with my firmly fingerprinted fingertips. All right, so you have denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Depression. I do believe that there are some people out there that are depressed. But I guess this is part of the problem. I'm not even sure, because a lot of conservatives have mentioned the 5 stages of grief, and I've used that before as an analogy regarding the left. But I'm not even sure that they're going through all of these processes: denial, anger, for sure; bargaining, no; depression. Perhaps they were immediately following the election because they were being lied to, and told that Kamala Harris had a chance. Not to mention that they were lied to. I mean, I'm so frustrated. I can't lie to you guys. This is a huge story with Joe Biden, but I'm just so frustrated that the left is coming out and pretending like they discovered, now they're finding out some new things, or things they couldn't talk about before, when it comes to Joe Biden's cognitive ability. I mean, I looked at that guy in 2019 when he was running for office, and I said, "There's no way this guy should be president of the United States." And then when he, wink, wink, won the 2020 election, I looked at the guy and I was like, "There's no way he'll make it six months, or a year," and he did, to my shock. All right, but apparently there were betting. People were placing bets in the White House when the guy would die. Oh man, just so sick, and it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. All right, but I do believe. Listen, at some point, right now we don't have to take these people at these rallies so seriously, but there will come a time where this drumbeat is going to continue, and it's going to get louder and louder and louder. It's never going to go away. So you, the American people, you're going to have to continue to fight for Trump's agenda, for the American agenda, because the left is going to make it as difficult as possible for Trump to be able to obtain some of his agenda. And quite frankly, so are some Republicans. And you have to brace yourself for that, which makes it all the more important to me, especially when it comes to the tariffs, that the communication on has just sucked. Guys, let's just be real. I know nobody wants to say it, because we won't get invited to Mar-a-Lago. We won't get invited to the White House. But I got to be real. I want Trump to win. All right. I want Trump to win. I want his agenda to be fulfilled. I think Steve Lutnick does a horrible job. Not as Secretary of Commerce. Let me make that emphatically clear. I think he knows what he's doing. He doesn't communicate it well, and they need a better communicator, and they need one message. I know this is extremely difficult with Trump, but it would be extremely beneficial to his agenda. All right, so let me just wrap this up. Opponents of Trump's and Elon Musk gathered to rally across the U.S. on Saturday. This, according to the Daily Wire, to protest the administration's actions, basically giving you back more of your money. More than 1,200 hands-off demonstrations were planned by more than 170 groups. This including civil rights organizations, labor unions, LBGTQ advocates, veterans, and elections activists. And this from Town Hall. It's another massive coping exercise for people who don't understand why they lost the election. No doubt the media coverage is going to magnify and make these wine fests something more than they are. The reality is that all these protests were in deep blue enclaves and they weren't well attended. It's not like during the first Trump presidency, liberal America has been thoroughly gutted by 2024, Town Hall writes. Now, a lot of these places, these rallies were in deep blue cities. And why is that? Or deep blue enclaves. And that's because the left has to hang on to the left. But here's the bottom line. They're going to hang on to the left. And unless we get all of these things that Doge is doing codified into law, um, listen, we're going to continue to struggle. We're going to continue to have a 50-50 country, or it's going to be very close. Given these rallies and given how much damage the left has done to this country over the past 4 years, this should be a no-brainer. We should never, elect Democrats or far left-wing Democrats anyway, or Democrats, period, in my case, into office. But it's going to happen at some point in time. It's going to happen. However, if these tariffs succeed, we get some deregulation, we get some tax cuts, we get some solid messaging. It's going to be hard for Democrats to come back. Not impossible, but it's going to be much harder for Democrats to come back. So just keep that in mind. I do want to play this clip for you if we could. This is what Elon Musk, this is clip number one. If we could get that ready, Gabe. Elon Musk appeared on Tucker Carlson's program, podcast, or what have you. And here's what he had to say. An employee of one of these government institutions that he walked into walked up to him. They had they them pronouns and they demanded something of Elon Musk. I want you to hear how he handled that. Let's play clip number one, please, Gabe.
Just as I was dismantling a corrupt government agency in Washington, a blue-haired liberal employee ran up to me and shouted, "Mr. Musk, you're going to have to get comfortable with calling me the right pronouns or you'll have trouble."
Wow, these liberals.
To her surprise, I calmly smiled. "All right, dear miss, what are your pronouns then?" She said, "They, them." I quickly responded, "Okay, you're both fired."
That's the way to do it. That's the way to see. These people haven't been given a reality check for God knows how long. They've been told they're special when they're not. They've been told they're great when they're probably not. Now, if these people were to listen to their parents, if these people would listen to the God's word in the Bible, we were all created in God's image. But these people believe that they're created in, I don't know whose image, the left's image, Uncle Sam's image. They've been told they're special for too long. They've been told that their poop doesn't stink for too long. They've been told that despite the fact that they've achieved nothing, that they should be the ones that excel in society for too long. And now they're getting a dose of reality that the real world doesn't work that way, or at least shouldn't work that way. And that's the same thing. That's the dose of reality that Washington, D.C. is getting right now. It shouldn't work this way. We shouldn't be beholden, those of us that are American citizens, to a federal government, to this monstrosity, to this Leviathan, and yet we are. And Trump is changing that around. And people don't like it. I want to play another video clip for you. And then I want to go through this piece from Victor Davis Hanson that I thought was brilliant. This is cut number 2. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He talks about the private sector, in essence, has been in a recession during the Biden years. Now, let me say this to those of you that are listening. I don't know if we're going to go through a recession or not. We may go through a recession. I know some in Trump's administration said we're not. But the bottom line is, even if we do, and this is where I'm a little concerned about the messaging, because even if we do, I think the message should be, as Trump has said before, we're going to feel a little pain, but America and you are going to be better on the other side. However, I do understand there's some people out there, and I think this is the empathy part that should be shared. There's some people that are really concerned about their portfolios, people that are, near retirement age. And I don't want to take that lightly, but I want to leave America better off for your posterity, for your children, for your grandchildren. This is what should be happening. And I'm going to do my best to make sure, and we, the Republican Party, to make sure we bring your portfolio back up to par, not down to the 2023 levels, which is where we are now. But I do believe they're going to rise, and I do believe they're going to rise significantly. But this has to happen. Chop, chop, hurry up. It has to happen. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Let's play clip number 2, por favor, Gabe.
I think with AI, with automation, with so many of these factories are going to be new. They're going to be smart factories that I think we've got all the labor force we need. And what we are doing on the other side, one of the reasons, other than my support for President Trump, that I came out from behind my desk, and I had a pretty good life, and I wanted to come out and really tell people that I was worried about an impending financial calamity, given the high levels of government spending that were leading to high levels of government debt. So what we are doing, on one side, the president is reordering trade. On the other side, we are shedding excess labor in the federal government and bringing down federal borrowings. And then on the other side, that will give us the labor that we need for the new manufacturing, and we're going to re-lever the private sector. So the private sector, in essence, has been in recession during the Biden years. And this is an opportunity to right-size the federal government and unleash the private sector again, because it's been hemmed down by excessive regulation, and it's been crowded out by the government.
Okay, this guy needs to go. He needs to be the number one messenger, the primary messenger. Hassett is another gentleman that I think is really good. They both have a calming effect. Scott Bessent more so, and I really do believe that this guy needs to be the one out there that's delivering the message to the American people when it comes to tariffs. It's just so crucial. It's so important. 4 questions that I want to ask. Actually, Victor Davis posed in a recent column when it comes to tariffs. I'm going to go through those when we get back. All right. So this is the Carl Jackson Show, but so important that we tackle this. So important that we tackle this honestly, and so important. It's so important that we tackle the concept of tariffs in their entire concept when it comes to saving the American economy. We'll do that after the break. You guys stay tuned. Okay, let's do that. Hey guys, howdy, Carl and Patriots from Texas. Hey, Billy. Hey, appreciate you being out there. God bless you, man. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. Really appreciate that. Please share the show. I would certainly appreciate that as well. You guys are going through some stuff in Texas. Trump is the man. Yes, he is. The guy has a backbone of steel. The guy has a backbone of steel. I can't say that for the entire Republican Party. And this is why it's so important that Trump's messaging is correct. You can't scare Republicans away, guys. We can be MAGA all we want. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of rhinos and there's a lot of weak-kneed people in Washington, D.C., and Trump's got to be on point. His team has got to be on point with messaging. That's just the way that it's got to roll. But you're absolutely right. He's the right man for the right time. So praise God for that. I'm looking for another story here. Okay, who else do we have here? What's up, Carlos Edward out of St. Louis? Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you tuning in. I got a nephew that lives in St. Louis. So it's that's cool to see people from different parts of the country responding. Guys, I forgot something too. So I had an allergic reaction. I'm only going to say this off while we're not live. So if it looks like I got punched in the mouth, I didn't. Either something stung me or I had an allergic reaction to something today. And I forgot to mention that in case you guys are like, man, his lips are extra big, bigger than normal today. That would be the reason why. But anyway, we'll get back in just a second. I'm trying to find just real quick a story before we come back. Oh man, on that signal, I want to get this right. Maybe I have it on my phone, but I want to make sure I get this story right. I'm not sure if you guys heard the latest on the Signal chat story, but it's a little embarrassing, but we need to be open and honest about it. So I'll do that if I can find it when we get back. All right, Gabe, I guess I'm not going to be able to find it. So, oh, that stinks. All right. So, anyway, all right, we'll get back. Let's get back to the programming. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'll be able to find it. Okay. All right. Welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. X, Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show, at the Carl Jackson Show. I was trying to find this story here online, and I want to make sure that I mention it before I go on to any more news. But it was basically about that Signal chat story and what really happened. And guys, honestly, it was just a major screw up. Turns out it was a major screw up on Mike Walsh's part. Oh, here it is. I just found it. All right. So the chat breach. So here it is. You won't hear, you probably won't hear much about it. You know, Republicans don't like to talk about when we screw up, but I just want to be real with you. So I'm going to do that. Sometimes we screw up. Sometimes we're not perfect. This is one of those cases where the screw up was on Mike Walsh's end. This from the Daily Wire, just real quick before we go back to tariffs, and I'll do that pretty quickly here. So damn dangerous. The story reads: Signal chat, or the headline: Signal chat breach linked to automated suggestion feature on iPhone. So the infamous Signal chat breach, which gave Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg access to a private chat with top officials in Trump's administration, was linked to an automated suggestion, quote unquote, feature on the iPhone used by NSA advisor Michael Walsh. According to a report published yesterday by The Guardian, Walsh had intended to include his communications chief, Brian Hughes, which is a former spokesman for Trump. But thanks to an iPhone algorithm that imports potentially related phone numbers into existing contacts, he also added Goldberg. I've done that before myself. So this is one of those situations where you have to be extremely careful. And unfortunately, I'm guessing they had used the chat before. He hadn't included his communications chief, I'm assuming, before in a Signal chat. This time he did. And there was a connection. Here's the connection, just real quickly. To find the connection between Goldberg and Hughes, which again is the communications chief for Walsh, the investigation had to go back nearly 6 months in October of last year, when Goldberg sent an email to the Trump campaign about a story the Atlantic had planned to publish at the time, attacking Trump over his behavior toward wounded service members. So according to the Guardian's report, Hughes then texted then Representative Walsh, who was serving as the campaign's national security surrogate, and had included Goldberg's contact information along with the content of his email. So Walsh's iPhone then associated the including number Goldberg with Hughes, adding it to an already saved contact. So two people had been included. Those two people had been included in a chat, or at least Goldberg's number, so that Walsh could respond to that particular piece. And that's how it was just a huge mistake. All right. So anyway, I want to carry on real quickly. What I wanted to make sure that I covered that, and I hope you guys got to hear the breaking news that the Supreme Court has vacated the court's order blocking deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, in a win for President Trump. So now he can deport a lot of these illegal criminal aliens. All right. So Victor Davis Hanson had a piece, and then I want to get ready to roll a couple more videos here. Because we are having some success with tariffs. Not all tariffs are good. I'm not a big fan of tariffs, but I do love tariffs for the sake of leverage. Now, the tariffs are the way that we raised money in the past without the income tax back in the day. Obviously the population wasn't what it was when we were just raising money through tariffs. Industry in America wasn't what it is today. So there's some arguments back and forth between conservatives there when it comes to that. So, but here's some questions that Victor Davis Hanson has. He also does a podcast, I believe it is, for the Daily Signal. And he says other countries seem to like tariffs, so why are people opposed to Trump's tariffs? And it's a legitimate question. He talks about Liberation Day. And he says, and by that he meant, speaking of Trump, that we were going to be liberated from asymmetrical tariffs of the last 50 years. And it was going to inaugurate a new, what he called, golden age of trade parity, greater investment in the United States, but mostly greater job opportunities and higher paying jobs for Americans. So we have asymmetrical tariffs, largely after, I believe it was World War I or World War II. Listen, there was just so much damage done to the world during war. America came out on the other side. Obviously, we lost a lot of our servicemen, but economically, America began to thrive at some point, and these countries were hurting, and many of them were trying to build back better, so to speak. And so, they slapped tariffs on because they had national interests that were not necessarily against the United States of America, but the United States of America even wanted to help them out. But those days are long. Those days are long gone in many instances. You have friendly nations where sometimes I think it's okay for them to slap tariffs on us as long as they are friendly allies of ours. Places like Vietnam. I'm sure you guys have heard the stories that basically Nike produces a lot of their shoes and actually all of their shoes in Vietnam. And they said even with 40% tariffs, they can't afford to come back to the United States, given the regulation that still exists within the United States. That's why I say that Trump's tariffs have to be coupled with deregulation and permanent tax cuts, because it's still hard for a lot of corporations to come back to the United States. But I also understand when it comes to places like Vietnam. Because Vietnam, listen, I mean, it's not like they create a lot of industry, and yes, they're making Nikes. I don't know what else they do there, but when these places don't have a lot of industry, they want to try to protect their nationalism, their economy as much as possible, and build up their economy. And sometimes the way to do that is tariff. So I understand why they would do it, but I understand why Trump does it. And it's to use it as leverage, but it's not going to work the same with everybody. And that's just something we have to understand. And that's why negotiations are underway. All right. So here's more questions that Victor Davis had for people that are opposed to Trump's tariffs. He says, here's my question. China has prohibitive tariffs. So does Vietnam. So does Mexico. I just explained Vietnam. So does Europe. So do a lot of countries. So does India. But if tariffs are so destructive of their economies, why is China booming? Now, right now, frankly, China isn't booming, and I think Victor Davis Hanson knows that. But I know what he's saying, or I think I know what he's saying. And but far be it from me to pretend like I'm as smart as Victor Davis Hanson. I'm not. I am brilliant, but I'm not Victor Davis. All right, but but here's but here's the thing: China is booming because they did use tariffs, but also it's because not only were they using tariffs, but we were dumb enough to export our manufacturing outside of the United States when it wasn't necessary. Frankly, guys, there's some times where it may be beneficial to the United States of America to have a trade deficit. When it comes to China, it's not. These people are still listed as an underdeveloped nation. How that is possible, I don't even know. It's insane. It's insane. So they were building up their economy. Meanwhile, they were trying to take over the United States and come into our territory in the Western Hemisphere to take us over. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So this isn't going to last. Victor Davis Hanson writes it's a great question. Why do all these places have tariffs? Why is China booming? And essentially it did boom economically. That's why they're our number one adversary. He said, how did India become an economic powerhouse when it has 3 exorbitant tariffs on American imports? Vietnam, of all places, become such a different country, even though it has prohibitive tariffs. Why isn't Germany, before the energy problems, why wasn't it erect? It got tariffs on almost everything that we send them. Now Germany is committing suicide with their energy policies. Our energy policies are very strong. Second thing he asked, why would you get angry at the person who is reacting to the asymmetrical tariff and not the people who inaugurated the tariff? Why is Canada mad at us when it's running a $63 billion surplus and it has tariffs on some of American products at 250%? Doesn't it seem like the people who started this asymmetrical, if I could use the word, trade war should be the culpable people, not the people who are reluctantly reacting to it? And in some cases, a lot of these tariffs haven't necessarily kicked in. They only kick in when the U.S. exports so much into their country. So that has to be understood. I could go on. A couple of other questions that he says he's had. We haven't run a trade surplus since 1975. That's 50 years. So it wasn't suddenly we woke up and said it's unfair. We want commercial justice. He says, no, we've been watching this happen. For 50 years, it's been going on, and no president, no administration, no Congress in the past has done anything about it. Done anything about what? He says, leveling tariffs on our products that we don't level on theirs. It was all predicated in the post-war period, he writes. We were so affluent, and I just spoke about this, so powerful. Europe, China, Russia were in shambles. that we had to take up the burdens of reviving the economy by taking great trade deficits. All right, so we had to revive our economy by taking great trade deficits, but that's 50 years ago. We have been deindustrialized, he writes, and the countries who did this to us by these unfair and asymmetrical tariffs did not fall apart. They did not self-destruct. They apparently thought it was in their self-interest. And if anybody collaborates, the recent gross domestic product growth of India or Taiwan or South Korea or Japan, they seem to have some logic to it. Lastly, he writes, there's a final irony. The people who are warning us most vehemently about this tariff, quote, the Smoot-Hawley Act of 1930. I've heard plenty of conservatives mention this, but he says, but remember something that came after the onset of the Depression, after the stock market crashed in 1929. That law was not passed until 1930. It was not really amplified until 1931. Now, some would argue, well, it made the Depression worse, and they could be right. But I'll wrap this up on the other side. One last segment coming to you. This is the Carl Jackson Show. All right. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just a reminder, quick reminder, please follow me all things social media, X, Instagram, and Facebook at Carl Jackson Show, at the Carl Jackson Show. And then also the podcast, please. Wherever you go to get your podcast, the Carl Jackson Show, YouTube, Rumble, the Salem Podcast Network. All right, Gabe, let's roll this. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I do that. Anyway, all right, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Again, you're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. So I do want to play a couple videos for you. I just went through that article, or at least part of it. It was actually one of Victor Davis Hanson's podcasts. He does a weekly one, I believe it is, for the Daily Signal, and they summarize it. And he asks some really good questions, as Victor Davis Hanson always does. But the truth of the matter is there's times where tariffs are beneficial for the sake of leverage, and there's times when they're not. But right now we are in the middle of negotiation with 70 different nation countries. And again, I just want to make this emphatically clear. Listen, guys, I want you, and I think that every conservative should be warning this. We are going to experience some pain. And I think that needs to be clear even from the Trump administration. We're gonna experience a little bit of pain. But when we get on the other side, and I think that's going to be relatively quick, things are going to be much better. I think America is going to be in a much better position. We're going to have a stronger economy. We're going to have a safer America. I think free speech is going to continue to thrive. People are getting tired of all these wokesters that are silencing speech. And there was a sad scenario in Colorado that broke. I believe it was over the weekend, maybe last Friday or so. Apparently, they passed a bill out there where you can't talk about. It's becoming like Europe out there. Trans issues or child and adult mutilation. Certain things that you could say or could be listed as illegal. I mean, it's just insane. Colorado has turned into California. A lot of the nut jobs from California moved to Colorado, and so did the politicians. Jared Polis is a horrible governor. A gay governor, and deeply into the trans movement, has helped fund it to some degree, just like J.D. Pritzker of Illinois. And so that state, oh man, that was the state that I wanted to move to. That was the state that I wanted to live and die in. Literally, it just a couple of decades ago, I was like, that's where I want to go. Liberals have destroyed it. I don't want to go anywhere near it. I mean, maybe to visit passing through, but I don't want to get too high. I'll have to get really high up in the mountains to not smell all the weed there. Now, it's just insane. Yeah, they just, whatever they touch, like Dennis Prager says, whatever the left touches, they destroy. All right, let's play some video clips for you. I think these are very important. Let's see, where are we? This is video clip. Where is it? Milton. Actually, let's play Milton Friedman. This is cut number 11. The Great Depression was caused by the Fed, he says, not tariffs. Cut number 11, please, Gabe.
Look, the Federal Reserve Board was Federal Reserve System was established in 1914. Started operation in 1914. It presided over a doubling of prices during World War I. It produced a major collapse in 1921. It had a good period from about 1922 to about 28. Then it undertook actions which led to a recession in 1929 and 30. And it converted that recession by its actions into the Great Depression. The major villain in the Great Depression was, in my opinion, unquestionably, the Federal Reserve System.
Man, that's Milton Friedman. A lot of people are trying to pretend like they're as smart as Milton Friedman when it comes to the economy, even in within conservative circles. The guy was good, and he he was on top of his game, and a lot of people followed him and continue to quote him for a reason. Let's go to clip number 13. This is Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent. He just announced that up to 70 nations have come to the table to negotiate with Trump's tariffs. Cut number 13, please, Gabe.
Larry, I can tell you that there are 50, 60, maybe almost 70 countries now who have approached us. So it's going to be a busy April, May, maybe into June. And Japan is a very important military ally. They're a very important economic ally. And the U.S. has a lot of history with them. So I would expect that Japan's going to get priority, just because they came forward very quickly. But it's going to be very busy. And if President Trump, again, gave himself maximum negotiating leverage, and just when he achieved the maximum leverage, he's willing to start talking.
Okay, so that's Scott Bessent, and I want to read you this as well. This from the Daily Wire. You guys know that Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, visited the White House. And here's what he had to say as of on Monday. And here's what he had to say, or he has pledged to eliminate Israel's trade deficit with the U.S. in hopes of avoiding tariffs. He says, quote, "We think it is the right thing to do, and we're also going to eliminate trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily." So again, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that Israel, again, will eliminate its trade deficit with the United States, which has been the basis for the 17% tariff the White House announced would be placed on Israel. Now, guys, I'm sure that's going to be some negotiations that are gonna take place because I would imagine the trade deficit. Israel is such a small country compared to ours. That's where I say these numbers get a little more tricky. It's not as simple as people would like to make it out to be. And that's why the reciprocal taxes were meant to bring people to the negotiating table. That's exactly what's happening. Netanyahu went on to say that we will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it quickly, very quickly. Again, we think it's the right thing to do, and we're also going to eliminate trade barriers. Netanyahu is calling himself a free trade champion. He said that Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same. Wow. I'm sure Trump loved to hear that. The tariff reportedly came as a surprise to Israeli leaders who had hoped that removing all tariffs from American goods would help ease the risk of economic turmoil amid a year-and-a-half long war that has strained the nation's struggling economy. Netanyahu is the first world leader to meet with Trump over the new tariff policy. The meeting is the second time Trump has hosted Netanyahu at the White House in less than 3 months. Man, that's a major change, right? The left, the Biden administration and the auto pen that was running his administration were just absolutely anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish. They hated Benjamin Netanyahu. To me, it seemed as though they hated the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. Man, what a change of events! Thank God. But I'm sure. Listen, obviously, Hamas needs to be wiped off of the face of the earth. So obviously, I shouldn't say, but I'm sure those talks occurred as well. And Iran can't be allowed to get a nuclear weapon. I mean, it's as simple as that. This nuclear weapons program in Iran has to stop, and it has to stop yesterday. A lot of people are wondering, how can we get Iran to stop the nuclear program? Kill them. I'm sorry. People act like this is some evil thought or some novel thought. When you run against, and I'm not talking about the people of Iran, because I know they're lovely people, but I'm talking about the mullahs. I'm talking about the Ayatollah Khamenei. I mean, this is very simple. This is very simple. You can't deal with people who theologically believe that you're supposed to be dead in order for them to attain whatever they obtain when they get to heaven and they're virgins, 72 virgins and all that. You can't compromise with those people. You can. It's impossible. I don't get people that are just like, oh, we can work with Iran and do. No, you can't. No, you can't. With the people with the people of Iran, but these leaders, these state sponsors of terrorism, they need to be taken out. It's as simple as that. And their and all of their weapons grade uranium and all of that stuff needs to be taken out. It's as simple as that. It is scary that we help to fund and embolden Iran. Frankly, just like we emboldened Russia under the Biden administration. All these people that are calling out Trump when it was the Biden administration that literally helped Putin fund his war, fund his invasion against Ukraine. All right, more stuff in the news. Elon Musk said a country is its people. I think we have a video of this, but for the sake of time, he said this quote: "Mass immigration is insane and will lead to the destruction of any country that allows unfettered mass immigration. That country will simply cease to exist. A country is its people, not its geography. This is a fundamental concept." He is so right. Borders, language, culture. Guys, just to reiterate, too, again, the story broke and I shared it at the top of the program. I just want to make sure that you did hear about this. And I'm going to be I got to go watch the NCAA championship in a moment here, but I do want to make sure that you heard this news, and now I can't find it. That the Supreme Court has indeed, um, the Supreme Court has vacated the court order blocking deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. Excuse me. So again, this is President Trump. This is a major victory for the Trump administration. This is a major victory for the United States of America. This is a major victory for potential victims of violent, illegal alien criminals. So the Supreme Court will allow the U.S. to deport Venezuelans under the Alien Enemies Act, and this is going to have major ramifications, I believe, in all of these woke federal district judges that are trying to stop the Trump administration. Guys, thank you for tuning in, and until next time, don't grow weary doing good.